Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of Intuitive Angling, and much appreciate you guys making some time out of your day to check the video out. And I've got a video I've been wanting to do for a while today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the sort of like the correlation between sports and bass fishing, about how it's just not as good as it was in the past. You know, I'm talking specifically 50, 60 years ago. And I sort of want to make the case why that is, sort of lay that out, sort of explain to you guys what I'm talking about, and maybe offer some solutions so we don't continue to head down that road here. And real quick, guys, before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys, if you all are having a tough time finding fish on the lake you fish a lot, please swing by fishthemoment.com and check out our summer lake map breakdowns. We got lake map breakdowns for all the major lakes across the country. Gives you 40 GPS waypoints to begin your search at, tips and advice on how to fish every spot, instructions on how to download them to your depth finder, and then also if you have a lake that you fish that's not on the website, you can book a virtual lesson with me and go over any lake in the country and just get some good spots. So I'll put the Fish the Moment lake map breakdown link in the description. Okay, guys, much of what I'm talking about here is the reason I say this is it centers around the loss of innocence. And I want to explain this a little bit, why it's super important, why innocence is important in every aspect of life we do, specifically bass fishing in this topic we're talking about here, and how it can't be underestimated how healthy it is to maintain that. And one of the things about it, guys, is I have no respect for people that rob other people of innocence, especially children. In my opinion, those people should be fed to the crawdads. And you know what I'm talking about. People whose actions and words take away innocence, and we all know what we're talking about. That I have no patience for that, and I want to apply this to what we're talking about here. I want to share one story that's sort of non-fishing related. Then I'm going to get into the bass fishing aspect of it here. Back when I grew up out just on the outskirts of Joplin, Missouri, in a little suburb called Duquesne, which is sort of part of Joplin, just right connected to it. And when I was growing up as a little kid, the road out in front of my mom and dad's house was a 2-lane road. After about 6 o'clock at night, there wasn't anyone on it. You could get out there and play in the street after 6 o'clock at night, like when we were in grade school. And we live about, probably our mom and dad lived about, it was probably, 4 or 500 yards from the intersection of two different roads there. And on this intersection, there was a little, like a little general store, like a little old time general store. And you could go in there and, get a bottle of pop or whatever. And it was just a real down homey little store. And they had 2 gas pumps there. And actually, when I was 12 years old, I worked there pumping gas, and people would come up there, and it was just it's something you saw out of Andy Griffith. If you guys have seen Andy Griffith, like the gas station that Gomer works at. It's sort of like something like that. So anyway, there was an innocence to that, and now, of course, there's a 4-lane road out in front of my parents' house. There's 6 billion cars and freaking obnoxious crotch rockets and Camaros, blasting by there 24 hours a day. There's a big come and go gas station right at the corner where the little, general store used to be. And it's basically just the innocence has been robbed from that area. And it's really pisses me off a lot. People say that this is progress and you can't stop progress. That's not progress. That's going backwards. And again, I'm getting ready to get into the bass fishing part of it, but I'll just finish this train of thought here. Progress does not mean growth. Progress does not mean having more. And I'll use this for an example I've used before. There's been quite a few studies as far as happiness about people around the globe. And without a doubt, the least happy countries in the entire planet, including the United States, which is near the top of the list of being the least happy country, are the countries that are most technologically advanced and most industrialized. The most happy countries in the world, people that consider themselves the happiest, are usually the more indigenous type peoples. The people, I'm not saying they're impoverished, but they don't have any type of income or industrialization or technology like we have here. It's more of a much simple lifestyle, sort of the way they've lived in the past before, and those people consider themselves the most happy. So when you talk about progress and growth and innocence, would you rather have a lot of money and be unhappy, or would you rather not have much money and be happy? I mean, I think the answer is pretty obvious. So that's why all these pro-growth policies the United States have, I think it's a bunch of crap for the biggest part of it, because I think it's leading us down a road of unhappiness. Now that gets us into the sport of bass fishing here. The case that I want to make for this, why bass fishing and other sports right now, they were much better 50 or 60 years ago. It goes back to, like, I remember watching baseball in the 60s and 70s. And you had guys like Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, those type of guys that people knew and they could relate to. And it's like, now in baseball, you can't even keep up with. There's more teams, there's more players, more in and out. There's no personalities. It's just like a conveyor belt of global talent coming in, and it's just not the same. It's not as the innocence is gone. It's like those innocent days of seeing those guys, like Mickey Mantle jacking home runs out of the park in Yankee Stadium. It's just not the same anymore. And it's the same with bass fishing. It's like, I look back and I look back at my own fishing. Like in the 70s, I was in school. I was in grade school and junior high and high school in the 70s. And a lot of you guys out there that are younger than me, you can't really understand what I'm talking about because you weren't there. But all you guys that are my age or older, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. There was an innocence in fishing back in the late 60s and 70s that was addictive, and it was like magical and wonderful. And the simplicity of it is gone. The innocence of it is gone. Technology and just the growth of the sport has robbed that innocence and that magic that we had back in the 70s. I'm talking about a time in the 70s when the Bassmaster Tournament Trail was just starting out. There'd only been a couple classics. There was only a couple different lure manufacturers out there. There was only a couple different boat manufacturers out there. Everything was simple. It's like when you went fishing, you had a jig and eel on, you had some type of a whopper stopper hellbender on, you had a jitterbug, you had a handful of lures, and there was a magic to that you can't really describe unless you were there and have something to relate it to like it is now. Now we have everything. We got more tournaments, we got more anglers, we got more options, we got more boats, we got more lures. Everything has grown. But the problem you have with that is that growth has not equated to increasing the happiness factor that lies within fishing. I look back in my own case, and I think most anglers that have any level of self-reflection, ability to self-reflect a little bit, and they have some age behind them, can understand. It's like the technology and complication and having more and growth does not equal a more positive experience in fishing or anything else we do out there. Simplicity is what does. There's other things beyond what we consider now that it is the norm. It's like we've lost that simplicity. And one of the things that I've noticed is that I have fished competitively in the 70s. That's when I started my bass club days, and I fished my first couple buddy tournaments in the late 70s. So I've competed professionally, or not professionally, but in tournaments, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, however many bunch of decades out there. And I can tell you guys right now, and this is not coming from somebody that's old and grizzled, because I may look that, but I still feel like I'm 20 years old inside my body. I can tell you for a fact, each decade that I fished, from the 70s, 80s, 90s, each decade there was a loss of innocence, and with that loss of innocence became a loss of the magic and the mystery of fishing. When you had the increase in the growth of the sport and the technology of the sport, it takes away from it. It's like, I look back now and I look back on those times of during when I was fishing in the 70s, and even though I had a $250 Leakin flat bottom boat and just a handful of lures, there wasn't a more wondrous time or magical time for me ever out there, because you still had that innocence out there. And every decade in the sport, we lose that innocence a little bit. We lose that innocence primarily through technology. And it's not a good thing. And that's one of the reasons, guys, I rail against the live scope. There's people out there, some people can grasp that and some people can't. And I use the old oak tree analogy a lot. If you guys haven't heard what I talk about, it's like most people feel a sense of outrage and anger and sadness when they see somebody cut down a big old oak tree, while other people say, well, that son of a bitch is gonna make a good coffee table. Some people, they don't have the ability to, see the right thing a lot of times. And it's sort of the same with bass fishing and the way that goes here. So the point of the video is that I want this sport to go backwards. I really do. I mean, I want it to go backwards and retain and regain that innocence that we've lost. Because technology is not going to make you happier. I can tell you that for a fact, guys. If you think it is, you're living in some type of denial of reality. The joy of life in general, it's not just fishing anything. It lies within the simplicity and the mystery and the magical aspect, the wonderment of it, the pure innocence of it. And every time we have a technological advancement in the sport, every time the sport grows, every time the sport gets bigger, a little bit of the innocence and wonderment goes with it. That's why all you dudes out there that are my age, you know what I'm talking about. You're probably watching this video and saying, right on, Randy. Some of you other guys that are younger or maybe haven't been there like we have, you're saying, that guy's a freaking nut job. He didn't know what he's talking about. And that's the difference of awareness versus being not aware. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there, guys. I've just been thinking about that a little bit. Overall, like I said, the point of the video is protect innocence at all costs in every aspect of your life. Be a vicious defender of innocence and be brutal against those people that rob innocence on any level like that, because they are not operating within the decency of the human experience. So anyway, hope you guys get something out of that. Much appreciate you listening. We'll talk later.